The impossible signal. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of Deep Space Station Omega, watching the endless void through reinforced titanium glass. The station orbited at the edge of human space, monitoring radio frequencies and quantum transmissions from across the galaxy. For 3 years, Chen had overseen this remote outpost, and in all that time, nothing had prepared her for what was about to unfold. The klaxon alarm shattered the peaceful silence. Chen's boots echoed against metal flooring as she rushed to the communications center. Lieutenant Marcus Rivera looked up from his console, his face pale with shock. "Commander, you need to hear this," Rivera said, his voice trembling. "We've intercepted a distress signal from the Void Sector." Chen's blood ran cold. The Void Sector was a region of space so hostile that even the advanced Galactic Council had declared it off-limits. Temperatures that could freeze most species solid in seconds, radiation levels that would cook organic matter, and gravitational anomalies that could tear ships apart. It was a graveyard where only the desperate or the foolish dared to venture. "Play it," Chen ordered. The transmission crackled through the speakers, filled with static and distortion. But beneath the interference, a voice emerged, alien, desperate, and fading. "This is Science Vessel, Harmony's Dream. Coordinates 77 Alpha. Hull breach. Life support failing. Crew of 43. Please. Anyone. We're dying." The message repeated 3 times before dissolving into white noise. Chen stared at the speakers, her mind racing. 43 lives hanging in the balance, trapped in the most dangerous region of known space. "How long has this been broadcasting?" she asked. 6 hours, ma'am. Signal degradation suggests they have maybe 18 hours before complete system failure. Chen activated her command console and opened a priority channel to Earth Central Command. Within minutes, the weathered face of Admiral Harrison appeared on screen. "Commander Chen, I assume this is about the Void Sector transmission." "Yes, sir. We need to mount a rescue operation immediately." Admiral Harrison shook his head slowly. "I've already contacted the Galactic Council. They've declared the mission impossible. No species in the galaxy has ships capable of surviving those conditions long enough to conduct a rescue." "But sir, people are dying." "I understand your concern, Commander, but this isn't our responsibility. The vessel is registered to the Altarian Federation. It's their problem." Chen's jaw tightened. The Altarians don't have ships that can handle the Void Sector either. "You know that. The Council has made their decision. The risk is too great. The chance of success too small. I'm sorry, Commander, but we cannot authorize a mission." The transmission ended, leaving Chen staring at a blank screen. She could still hear the desperate alien voice echoing in her mind. 43 beings waiting for death in the cold void, abandoned by their own government and ignored by the galaxy's most powerful alliance. Lieutenant Rivera cleared his throat. "Ma'am, I've been running calculations. The Void Sector conditions, they're not that different from what we encountered during the Titan mining operations." Chen turned to face him. Titan, Saturn's largest moon, had been humanity's first major off-world mining venture. The conditions there were brutal, temperatures that fluctuated between freezing and boiling, radiation storms that could kill in minutes, and atmospheric pressure that could crush most alien species. But humans had not only survived there, they had thrived. "You're suggesting we could survive where the Council cannot." "I'm saying we're the only ones crazy enough to try." Chen activated her personal communicator and contacted Captain Jake Morrison aboard the heavy cruiser Indomitable. Morrison's scared face appeared on screen, his cybernetic eye glowing blue in the dim light of his ship's bridge. "Sarah, please tell me you're not about to ask me to do something incredibly stupid and dangerous." "Jake, I need you to assemble the fleet. Full deep space configuration." Morrison groaned. "How stupid and dangerous are we talking?" "Void Sector rescue mission. 43 alien lives at stake." There was a long pause before Morrison grinned. showing teeth that had been replaced with titanium after a mining accident on Europa. Well, someone's got to show these aliens how it's done. I'll have the fleet ready in 2 hours. Chen smiled for the first time in hours. This was why she loved serving with humans. They didn't calculate odds or weigh political consequences when lives were at stake. They simply acted. The human fleet assembled quickly. 5 heavy cruisers, 12 destroyers, and 2 massive rescue vessels, loaded with medical equipment and emergency supplies. The ships were built tough, designed for operations in the harsh environments that had forged humanity's expansion into space. As the fleet prepared to depart, Chen received an encrypted message from Admiral Harrison. The text was brief. Mission is officially unauthorized. Earth Command has no knowledge of your actions. Good luck. Chen understood. Officially, Earth couldn't sanction a mission into the Void Sector without Council approval. Unofficially, they were giving their people the chance to do what they did best. Achieve the impossible. Captain Morrison's voice crackled over the fleet-wide communications. All ships, this is indomitable. We're about to enter a region of space that every other species considers unsurvivable. They think we're crazy for attempting this mission. They're probably right, but 43 beings are counting on us, and we don't leave people behind. Fleet will jump to hyperspace in 30 seconds. Chen watched from the observation deck as the human fleet disappeared into the void, their engines blazing like stars against the darkness. She thought about the alien crew waiting for death in the Void Sector, unaware that help was coming from the one species the galaxy still considered primitive. In the depths of space, the distress signal continued broadcasting, growing weaker with each repetition. But for the first time since the transmission began, there was hope. The Deathworlders were coming. The hyperspace journey to the Void Sector took 14 hours, longer than usual due to the gravitational anomalies that made the region so dangerous. As the fleet dropped back into normal space, Captain Morrison immediately understood why the Galactic Council had declared rescue impossible. The Void Sector lived up to its name. Space itself seemed twisted here, with swirling clouds of ionized gas that glowed with deadly radiation. Massive gravitational fields from collapsed stars pulled at the ships, threatening to tear them apart. The temperature readings fluctuated wildly, from absolute zero to levels that would melt most spacecraft hulls. All ships, maintain formation, Morrison commanded. Keep your shields at maximum, and your engines ready for emergency burn. This place wants to kill us. The human ships pressed forward, their reinforced hulls groaning under the stress. These vessels had been built for exactly this kind of environment, not the sterile safety of Council space, but the raw, unforgiving frontier where humanity had learned to survive. Navigator Lieutenant Kim Park worked furiously at her console, plotting a course through the gravitational maze. I've got a route to the distress signal coordinates, but it's going to be rough. We'll have to thread between 3 gravity wells and a radiation storm. Do it, Morrison ordered. The fleet moved deeper into the Void Sector, each ship fighting against forces that would have destroyed more fragile vessels. But these were human ships, built by a species that had learned engineering from the harsh environment of their homeworld, a planet so dangerous that most aliens classified it as uninhabitable. After 6 hours of careful navigation, sensors detected a ship drifting in the shadow of a massive asteroid. The vessel was unlike anything in human databases, elegant curves and crystalline structures that spoke of an aesthetic far removed from human industrial pragmatism. There she is, Morrison announced. Harmony's dream. She's taken massive damage. The alien ship was barely holding together. Hull breaches vented atmosphere into space, and the vessel's beautiful design was marred by collision damage and radiation burns. But life signs were still detectable. All rescue teams, prepare for deployment, Morrison commanded. Remember, we don't know what these aliens need to survive. Assume they're as fragile as the Council species. The rescue operation began immediately. Human teams in heavily armored environmental suits moved through the void, working to stabilize the alien vessel and evacuate survivors. The conditions that had prevented other species from attempting rescue were merely challenging to humans who had grown up mining asteroids and building colonies on worlds that would kill most galactic citizens. As the first group of alien survivors was brought aboard the human rescue ships, Commander Chen received a transmission that would change everything. The lead alien survivor, a being with translucent blue skin and large, luminous eyes, spoke in halting galactic standard. You are humans, the Deathworld species." "That's right," Chen replied. "We're here to help." The alien's eyes widened further, but the council said rescue was impossible. They said no one could survive the void sector conditions. Chen smiled grimly. "The council doesn't understand what it means to be human. We don't just survive impossible conditions. We thrive in them." Into the abyss. The rescue operation continued for hours, with human teams working tirelessly to extract survivors from the dying alien vessel. Each rescue required navigating through the Harmony's Dream's twisted corridors, now filled with toxic gases and unstable gravitational fields from damaged artificial gravity generators. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Elena Rodriguez worked frantically in the medical bay of the rescue ship Lifeline, treating alien physiology she had never encountered before. The Kitharan survivors, as they called themselves, were indeed fragile by human standards, their crystalline bone structure and delicate respiratory systems making them vulnerable to conditions that humans barely noticed. Their atmospheric requirements are similar to ours, but they need precise humidity levels and specific mineral content in the air, Dr. Rodriguez reported to Captain Morrison. Too much variation, and their respiratory systems begin to crystallize. Morrison nodded, watching as his crew adapted their rescue procedures on the fly. This was what humans did best: improvise, adapt, overcome. While other species followed rigid protocols, humans wrote new ones in real time. The alien captain of the Harmony's Dream, a tall Kitharan named Velatar, had been among the first rescued. Despite his injuries, he insisted on helping coordinate the evacuation of his crew. His translator device had been damaged, but he had learned enough galactic standard to communicate. "Your people," Velatar said to Morrison, his voice filled with wonder. "They work in conditions that would kill our strongest warriors. How is this possible?" Morrison looked out at the void sector surrounding them, the radiation storms, the crushing gravity wells, the temperature extremes. To him, it wasn't much worse than the conditions humans had faced colonizing Mars or mining the asteroid belt. "Where we come from," Morrison explained, "everything is trying to kill you. The weather, the animals, the planet itself. We learned to survive because we had to. Our homeworld made us tough." Velatar's large eyes reflected the chaos outside. "The Council calls your world a death planet. They say only the most aggressive species could evolve there." "Aggressive?" Morrison laughed. "We're not aggressive. We're just persistent." As if to prove his point, Rescue Team Alpha reported success in extracting the last group of survivors from a section of the ship that was actively venting plasma. The human rescuers emerged from conditions that would have instantly killed most galactic species, carrying injured Kitharans to safety. The final phase of the rescue required the most dangerous work yet. The Harmony's Dream's reactor was destabilizing, threatening to explode and take the human fleet with it. The only solution was to manually shut down the reactor from inside the ship, a task that required someone to enter a chamber filled with lethal radiation. "I'll do it," volunteered Chief Engineer Bobby Santos, a veteran of humanity's nuclear industries. "I've worked in reactor cores before." Dr. Rodriguez protested. "Bobby, the radiation levels are off the charts. Even with full protection, you'll absorb enough to kill you." Santos shrugged. "Maybe, but if that reactor goes critical, we all die anyway. Besides," he grinned, "I survived 3 years on Chernobyl Station. This can't be worse than that." As Santos prepared for his mission, Velatar approached Captain Morrison with something approaching awe. "Your engineer is willing to die for beings he has never met, from a species he just learned existed." Morrison nodded. That's what we do. No one gets left behind. Santos entered the dying alien ship one final time, following corridors that glowed with deadly radiation. His environmental suit's alarms screamed warnings about radiation exposure, but he pressed forward. The reactor chamber was a hellscape of twisted metal and raw energy, but Santos had worked in worse conditions during humanity's expansion into space. With steady hands trained by years of dangerous work, Santos began the delicate process of shutting down the alien reactor. The technology was unfamiliar, but engineering principles were universal. Slowly, carefully, he brought the runaway reaction under control. Reactor shutdown complete, Santos reported, his voice strained but triumphant. The ship is stable. The human fleet began its journey home, carrying 43 grateful Kitharan survivors. But the rescue had taken its toll. Chief Santos had absorbed enough radiation to require months of treatment, and several other crew members had suffered injuries that would have been instantly fatal to more fragile species. During the long journey back to human space, Veltar spent hours talking with the human crew, trying to understand how they had accomplished what the entire Galactic Council had deemed impossible. "Your species fascinates me," he told Commander Chen as they approached the edge of human territory. "The Council portrays humans as dangerous, unpredictable, violent, but you risked everything to save strangers." Chen smiled. "Violence and compassion aren't opposites. Sometimes you have to be dangerous to protect what matters. We learned that lesson a long time ago." "But why?" Veltar pressed. "Why risk so much for people you don't know?" Chen looked out at the stars, thinking of humanity's long journey from a single dangerous world to the galaxy beyond. "Because someone has to. Because it's the right thing to do. Because—" She paused, searching for the right words. "Because that's what makes us human." When the human fleet arrived at Deep Space Station Omega, they found representatives from a dozen galactic governments waiting for them. News of the impossible rescue had spread throughout Council space, and everyone wanted to understand how the primitive humans had succeeded where advanced civilizations had failed. The Kitharan survivors were treated at the station's medical facility, their grateful families arriving within days to thank their rescuers. But it was the reaction from the Galactic Council that proved most significant. Admiral Harrison contacted Commander Chen with news that would reshape humanity's position in galactic society. "The Council has requested a full briefing on the rescue mission. They want to understand human capabilities better." "Are we in trouble?" Chen asked. Harrison smiled. "Quite the opposite. The Altarian Federation has formally requested human assistance with 3 more rescue missions in hazardous space. The Regellian Collective wants to hire human crews for deep space exploration. And the Council itself has extended an invitation for humanity to join the Galactic Emergency Response Force." Chen felt a surge of pride. Humanity had spent decades being treated as dangerous newcomers, barely tolerated on the galactic stage. But when lives were at stake, when others couldn't or wouldn't act, humans had stepped forward and proven their worth. Chief Santos, despite his radiation exposure, insisted on attending the ceremony where the Kitharan government formally thanked their rescuers. Veltar presented him with a crystal sculpture, a traditional Kitharan symbol of courage and sacrifice. "Your people saved more than 43 lives," Veltar said. "You saved our faith in the galaxy itself. We had begun to believe that when the powerful find something too difficult, the weak must simply accept their fate." Santos accepted the crystal with characteristic human directness. "We're not heroes, you know. We're just too stubborn to quit when people need help." But Veltar shook his head. "That stubborn refusal to quit, that is exactly what makes you heroes." As the ceremony concluded and the various diplomatic parties departed, Commander Chen stood once again in the observation deck of Station Omega. The stars looked the same as they had before the rescue mission, but something fundamental had changed. Lieutenant Rivera joined her, looking out at the infinite expanse of space. "Think we'll get more calls like this?" Chen smiled, remembering Veltar's words about faith in the galaxy. "I hope so." The universe is a big, dangerous place. Someone needs to answer when people call for help. And if that someone happens to be the crazy Deathworlders from Earth, then the galaxy better get used to being surprised. Outside the station, space remained as vast and dangerous as ever. But somewhere in that darkness, there were fewer voices calling desperately into the void, and more beings who understood that when the impossible needed to be done, there was one species that would always answer the call. The Deathworlders had responded, and it had changed everything.